Hello, welcome everyone to the first episode of the Humans on Air podcast, where humans meet superhumans in the field of AI, blockchain, and business. For this episode, we have invited our very own Nicu Sebe. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself shortly?
Well, I'm first of all, I'm very proud to be part of the human family, and well, I've been a professor for all my life. So I studied I did my PhD in Holland with some period in US. Then I was a professor in Holland. I moved to University of Trento in Italy, where I'm now a professor, and I joined the human team like about a year ago. And I'm working on computer vision and multimedia, and especially for the humans' interest, I'm working on generative computer vision. So I'm trying to generate content and try to animate faces and voices and all this kind of content.
Nice. I read something about you that you said, okay, there's a lack of, or there's a gap between the academic world and the real world, where
I believe it is, yes. I mean, it's true in the last few years this has been kind of shortened, in the sense that now there are quite, especially in the area of AI, computer vision, there are a lot of people from the academia that have joined the industry. There are also joint labs and so on. And I believe this is really the future, because the industry, of course, they have the computational power, they have the resources, they have the data, which is quite important. But on the other hand, they also need us to kind of test things and to try us as academics. I mean, and they need us to test and to try and to invent new methods. And we also need them, of course, because we need to run our algorithm onto their machines as well.
Okay, and for example, for people that are not into the academic world, how does it relate? So, for example, we see a lot of great startups within the AI world, but what role does academic world play?
Well, it's very simple, because usually the startups are kind of initiated by our PhD students, or our, let's say, the students that have graduated, or our postdocs and so on. So, in some sense, we are kind of grooming the next generation of AI researchers and so on. And that has been always the same, but now I think it's really the big momentum. So now there are more and more people that are kind of trying their chances into AI, into computer vision. And there are a lot of investors that really are able to and are willing to take their technology nowadays.
Before we get back to this momentum, I have a small gift for you, brought from the Netherlands. Here you go.
Thanks a lot.
You can open it if you want.
As I said, I've been living in Holland for many years, so I know what the stroopwafels are, and they are going to treasures. And
you recognize them?
I do recognize
them. You like it?
I like them a lot, yes. And I know that there is some special shops in Amsterdam where you can buy them. So
many, yeah, definitely. What's your best remembering from the Netherlands?
Oh, it's hard to tell. I've been living for 12 years there. I even have the Dutch nationality. So, well, I guess if I am nostalgic about, let's say, our people in some sense, I'm really missing my friends there. I'm really missing the relationship I had with the Dutch people. And I think, which, of course, I mean, in Italy, I also have a lot of friends and so on. But in Holland, it's different. And also when I go to the conferences, I also join a lot my former colleagues from the University of Amsterdam. So I'm still part of the Dutch family in some ways.
That's always good.
It's always good. Yes.
So you came from Bucharest, you went to the Netherlands, and now you're in Italy. How would you compare these three countries in terms of the AI development and the academic side, but also the startup side? Well,
I mean, Romania, I left long ago, so it was like 27 years ago. So it's hard to tell. So let's say I get a basic knowledge for, let's say, well, computer science in general. Then I started to grow a lot in Holland and in US. And that was at the beginning of my career. And I think it was very nice, because I was helped a lot by my colleagues, my friends, and so on. Now in Italy, I'm really on the other side, in the sense that now I'm really like a manager. I'm a professor. I'm leading the research group, and I do have a large research group, about 25 people. And it's one of the things that I learned in Holland is that, and this is different in Italy in the sense that you need to have an international environment. So in my group in Italy, it's probably one of the most international, if not the most international group in Italy. We do have people from everywhere. And well, I even had Dutch people, so just to put like the Chinese a lot. I had Indians, I had people from South America, I had Italians as well. So I think this is it's quite important now. And as I said, now I'm really on the other side, so I could really I feel I can have a more concerted impact on what we are doing, right? Because it's not only me, but it's also me and my group. And I already have students that are now into the industry. So one of my former students is now the research leader in Snap, for example. So it's kind of, it's just a normal career of a university professor, right? After 20 something years, after you finish your PhD, you finally, you are able to harvest your results.
Yeah. What is the project what you're the most proud of so far?
Well, there are many. I mean, okay, if I want to make it like a metaphor, I'm proud of my students and my former students, right? So this is, just to paraphrase my former PhD advisor, Thomas Huang, he said, I'm nothing without my students. In terms of, let's say, products, I believe what we did very well, and this was one of the first, I mean, I think we were one of the first to do this, was really trying to work into video generation. And that was something that we started to work a few years ago. And after that, we developed many applications, and we are able now to have several technologies that could be used for generation. At the beginning, we started with some very simple image animation, right? You start with a single image, and then you try you would have a driving video, and practically what you would do, you would just take the image and animate it to copy the motion of the driving video. So it started like a joke. I was joking with one of my PhD students saying, look, why don't you make me do the moonwalk of Michael Jackson? And actually, in the end, exactly what has happened, right? So you have the Michael Jackson video doing the moonwalk, you have my image, and then you can just animate me to do the moonwalk of Michael Jackson. And this is the first step, right? So in that case, you really need to have this example video. So it's working already very nice and so on. But that, of course, is very limiting, because in some cases, you may not have this video. Then what you could do, so at the beginning, so we were just animating the entire body, but then we would say, why can't we just use segmentation? So let's say only part of the body, and try to animate only that part of the body. Or you could also use, let's say, only part of my face, and you just plug it in onto Michael Jackson. So now it's not me copying the motion of Michael Jackson, but it's just my head, or my part of the face that is pasted on top of Michael Jackson, whatever, while he's moving. And then yet another step that we did was trying to make some sort of playable video generation. So now it is the user, it's kind of indicated what sort of motion you want to do. So like a simple example, imagine that you have a human character and you want to play like a tennis game. Okay, so what you do, you have a large data set of players playing games. So you could understand what are the typical motions and how these motions are related to the position of the player in the field. And then practically what you do, you just start with, let's say you have one player, and then the user is kind of moving the player around, and the player will take the right position, the right action, which would correspond to that part of the field. And this is just playing, which we started with one player, now we have two players. You can also model a little bit the field. You can change the style of the field. For example, the player can play on the grass, can play on I don't know, clay or other kind of things. So you could kind of provide the user with more and more control over what's going on into the generation.
And when did this start? This research project?
I think it started about 5 years ago. We started to have the first results. I think it was 2018. Even now, I would say that the first order motion model, it's still one of the state of the art, and it's so the code is available, and many people have taken our code and was kind of doing animation for other things. Sorry.
Any interesting caller?
No, I guess it's advertisement from.
Okay, always good.
Always good, yes.
But could you say that 5 years ago you already started with generative AI and the development of all the models, etc.? Why do you think? Because over the last year or even the last month, we've seen an immense storm about generative AI. Everyone's talking about it.
Right.
But it started years ago in the development. Why did it take so long for people to pick it up and to start using it?
Well, I mean, again, as I said, we start with some kind of very simple conditions in some way, right? So what we were doing at the beginning was kind of taking like a 2D form and try to model it. So we were not able, for example, to animate very well the 3D motion. So then the next step would be, and was to kind of have some 3D models to get animated. Now, what is getting very popular, and this is started like about 2 years ago, is to have these neural fields, neural diffusion fields, in which you kind of, it's some kind of at the border between computer vision and computer graphics, in which you kind of hallucinate a few positions of the camera, and then you do some sort of seamless integration, seamless interpolation between different views. So you could practically generate a 3D view of the scene. Okay. Another thing that was, it's still different. In many cases, you could do very well if you know what object you want to animate. For example, the human face. And this was, for example, deep fakes now are very, very popular. What we try to do, and that was, I think it was also innovative in many ways, to try to do object agnostic. So it's not only faces in which you can just face have a very, very, let's say, fixed structure, but to try to get human bodies, which is far more complex. So if you want to move the face, it's fine, it's working pretty reasonable. If you want to have a human, let's say, being animating and moving, you can easily see the differences. So I believe it is really a progress. At the beginning, we were also struggling a lot with computation. Now it is much better. So I think it's just a natural process. And what is interesting nowadays is that there are many companies that have taken now, at least for the face part, they have taken out the technology and they have implemented many of the things. So now you can see a lot of, so not only us, but like companies like Synthesia, but humans as well, in which we try to get, human avatars, and they would start, being animating and having facial expression and other kind of things. And now the next generation is trying to go towards multimodal approaches. So you don't want to just animate only face, but you also want to kind of have some kind of, talking heads, right? So you want to get people talking, and here it comes different type of animation. So you could try to kind of animate the lips to say something, so the input could be text, but could also have, for example, I can make myself talk with my own voice in different languages, or I can have a voice of Bart or somebody else. So I think to me, this is really what it's going towards, let's say, real life in some sense.
Yeah. Why would we do this?
I think in many cases you would want to kind of have an alter ego. So you can use, let's say, a digital copy of yourself to do things for you. Of course, this brings up some clear problems, right? Because of course you have to make sure that it's myself, or it is the owner of the content that I'm animating. It's also important to make sure that people know that this is a fake and it's not the real stuff, right? So we don't try to fool people, but I would believe that you could try to support creativity of people, to use things to, let's say, to communicate with other people.
Yeah.
So some simple example, you want to send a message to your wife, or you want to talk to your students, or all these kind of things would be quite interesting. So what we are aiming at, so we are on the good side, to put it like this, even if we are creating deepfakes, but we are aiming at supporting creativity.
Yeah.
And maybe another frontier that we move towards, and this I was telling you about playable video generation, we try to kind of create games, but games with real people in some sense, right? So not kind of, you have the graphical characters like, moving around, which are kind of artificial, we got used to it, but having real people in real scenes. And that would be some kind of real life type of things. And it could be used for simulation, could be used for many other things, for training, for a lot of things.
So understanding it correctly, could I play FIFA with the real Messi instead of having the animated version?
Exactly. That would be exactly.
So I could have Netherlands win over Messi this time.
But on top of that, you could also put yourself to play with Messi. I mean, you could be yourself on the field, and you can just
making the cheering myself.
No. You can just really play. I mean, you kind of replace another player. One of the Dutch guys. You take whatever.
Weghorst. So I scored
exactly.
The goal.
Well, we are not tall enough for the Weghorst. But
no,
that's
true.
Okay. So you could go and you could score. Indeed.
Yeah.
And that would be something very entertaining, right? So try to see yourself and then play with some real people.
So I can become Messi. So I can become the best football player ever, or Ronaldo, or whatever you're a fan of.
In a game, yes.
In a game, yeah.
In a sort of metaverse, if you think about, yes, of course.
That's interesting. So this makes me do everything I want, but in a different world.
Right. So it will be more like kind of having a game. Of course, it's a game, but you kind of impersonate yourself into being part of the game. And this is, of course, it's bringing up a lot of, it's not only natural, but it's also a lot of engagement.
Yeah.
And I think this is something really, really important.
If we go back to the generative AI as a trend or a hype at the moment, looking at ChatGPT, but also DALL-E, how do you look at those? What about the quality? How do you see the implications for the real world, actually?
Well, they are amazing. I mean, if you think about, you talk about, ChatGPT. I mean, if you just put questions that are, pretty difficult, you would say, it's able to generate quite interesting things.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not always perfect. So, for example, DALL-E, there is a classical example with the salmon that they were saying, you get, salmon running up the river, and then what DALL-E was generating was a kind of trenches of salmon going up. And this is a clear example in which AI, it's kind of blind because it's just learned from the data. It's seen a lot of trenches of salmon and then believe that is salmon.
Yeah.
So one of the bottlenecks, of course, is data. So what these guys are doing, they are based on a huge amount of data.
Where do they get the data from?
Well, I mean, it's like they are Google oriented and whatever. So they do have, data. They crawl and they get a lot of data.
Okay. Yeah.
And no, I think these things are amazing. So if you think about trying to even in DALL-E, if you want to generate things like you want yourself into a Van Gogh style or some other things, it does.
I tried actually,
and I think it's working very well.
Yeah.
Another thing that has been a revolution in the last few years. We haven't worked so much on this. It's this type of visual and textual joint representation. So there are representation like Clip.
Yep.
They are called Clip, Bart, and so on, in which practically they take text and visual information that they represented into a common embedding, and then practically what you can do there, you can move from text to image to text, and you can just interplay them. So it's this kind of cross-modal generation. And of course, you can also add audio and so on. And this type of things are very, very powerful. And then you could do, for example, in the image domain, it's very, and we've been working as well, is trying to play around with attributes. So you could, for example, you have different passes through this embedding in which you can make a young Bart or the old Bart, or you can transform yourself into, I don't know, with a beard, without a beard, with glasses, without glasses. Yeah. You can have some sort of seamless interpolation between you and your girlfriend, and all these type of things. And I think, again, it's really supporting creativity of people. And then there are other things like in DALL-E, you have some overpainting. So what you can do, you can have some sort of seamless integration between and interpolation between different paintings. So you get, I don't know, the girl with a pearl earring.
Yeah.
And then you can just, put her into, you kind of extend the room she's in.
That's amazing.
And then you can go to outside and so on. So then you could use all this technology to kind of do the interpolation. And it's working very good. Of course, one of the main things is that there is no ground truth for this. Okay, so you can't tell that one representation is better than another one. Yeah. It's just in the eye of the beholder. You can say, yeah, I like it or I don't like it. So I think that's why, to me, the most important aspect is that the human is the one that it's consuming and the one to say, I like this one or I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think this is really the next frontier of let's say generative AI in general.
Wow. You said something about creativity. Mm-hmm. Do you think we become more creative or less creative? Because we have all these great tools that can be creative for us. So I just have an idea and I put it in and the creativity comes out? Or...
No, I think it's an interplay between them. I think the more tool I have, I mean, it's if you think about it, in the human progress was always like that. Now some new tools have been invented and people would kind of invent new ways to use them. So to me, I don't think it's a limitation. I think it's really kind of a boosting of creativity in many ways.
So reinventing ourselves?
In some sense, yes, indeed. I guess I would say so, yes.
Do you have an example of that we reinvented ourselves due to another research in the past? Another
Oh well, I mean, we had a lot of ways. I mean, there was several, let's say, revolutions in the past. I don't know. So one of the main revolution was in the invention of, let's say, the printing paper, like Gutenberg and so on.
Yeah.
And since that changes a lot. You know, for example, the distribution of knowledge, right? You can print books, and these books would kind of have the knowledge widespread all around.
Yeah.
Then it came internet, and then there are many other examples like that. So to me, again, I'm not afraid of these type of things. On the contrary, I think we should benefit. And one example, it's simple. That I don't know if you have a small kid like 5, 6, 7 years old. It's much better than, I don't know, our father or our grandfathers in using technology. Okay, some people will say, yeah, but they don't know what is in the phone and so on. But maybe they don't need to know all these things, but they know how to use it, and they invent new things how to use them.
Yeah.
So to me, I think this is the most important part, that we are kind of becoming, let's say, more used to use technology and digital technology, rather than we are kind of being lazy and do nothing about it. I don't believe that, many people are afraid that now with all these things, that with Wikipedia, you don't need to learn anything.
No.
I don't think so, because you still need to look for it, you still need to search it, you still need to digest it. So. Yeah. To me, the availability of the information, it's a plus rather than some negative aspect.
Yeah. So not being afraid, just embrace it and reinvent ourselves.
Exactly. But this has always happened. So it's not that from generation to generation. Yeah. I mean, we've been using technology in different ways. So I don't see why we should be afraid that the next generation would be. It could be that we don't understand it, but it will just happen.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, and I fully agree with you. On the deepfake / synthetic media side, how can we make sure that people don't abuse it? Because if I record you, I can have you say anything, and we have seen the examples, of course, in the field.
Right. Okay. That is definitely one of the main focus right now. It's what is called a trustworthy AI.
Yeah.
Right. So people try to make sure that, so first of all, with deepfakes, there are some artifacts in there. So while we are working on creating these deepfakes, there is a parallel movement in which they are kind of detecting the deepfakes. Okay, so of course, when you are creating the deepfake, since you are using some particular templates, you cannot notice yourself with a naked human eye, but with technology, you can easily tell that, or you can tell that they are deepfakes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm now part of a European project which is supposed to kind of really work on, it's called AR for Trust. And it's supposed to work on detecting deepfakes. Right? So our intuition was that since we know how to make deepfakes, we should also know how to detect them. Another thing that is quite important, and I believe this is part of the entire things to be, let's say, to create trust, it's a very interesting notion of unlearning. So far, we've been working on, let's say, machine learning was used to kind of learn things.
Yeah.
But in many situations, you may want to do unlearning. So let's take, for example, to eliminate biases. So let's say cultural bias. So some of the things that you can learn in Romania, but you want to apply them in Holland, of course, you want to eliminate the Romanianness in some sense and to be able to learn something else on top. And this type of things, it will create not only adaptability of the methodology, but also in some cases you may just unlearn things. So there was a classical example of, let's say, the face detection was working in US, for example, was working very, very well with, let's say, with Caucasian people, but were having trouble with the black people.
Yeah.
And this was simple, not because the AI was racist. Was simply because there was far more available data on white people. So if you just do some kind of unlearning, so you kind of try to forget some of the things, but controlled unlearning, then of course you could use some sort of let's say basic models that could be able to learn something else or learn another bias and so on. So to me, I think this is something quite interesting.
Is this what we will going to see next year as well?
It could be. Yeah. It could be. Yes. I mean, I believe this is some way in which you could adapt things to different environments and to different things. So and another aspect is not only in trustworthy. I think it's another buzzword what is called explainable AI.
Yeah.
Okay. So now with the deep learning, okay, most of the deep learning models are kind of black boxes.
Yeah.
So what we try to do now is to kind of dissect this model to kind of be able to understand parts of it and to understand which layers are doing what, and try to control them, to inject some of the information into particular layers to control what's going on at the output. So this is something, another trend that people are working on it nowadays.
So trustworthy AI,
explainable AI.
Any other trends we should expect for next year?
I think they are already in here, but well, there is another, and probably another aspect that is important is to have this secure AI. So in some sense, so you make sure that if you have digital assets, they are not stolen and so on. Yeah. And here, probably like a technology like blockchain could go into play. And I think many people are learning from this type of.
Why blockchain?
I believe blockchain because it's supposed to be nowadays one of the most secure, in the sense that it's based on some kind of shared knowledge of particular key, and it's some sort of a community guided, guarded, let's say, access in some way. So I believe blockchain is definitely something that I'm not an expert into this, but I believe it's something that it's coming to be next into many technologies. So besides the crypto world and so on, I'm talking about the real
the framework of
exactly the
blockchain.
technology for that. Yes,
that's an interesting one. And the development of AI on blockchain, is that also something you see happening?
I think it's going to be to be happening. It's not happening too much nowadays, but I believe it's going to be one of the next areas. And many people are considering using this type of technology on top of blockchain and on the using AI.
Getting back to the bridging of academia and business life, is there anything else we are missing that we should do to make the gap smaller?
Well, I mean, it's happening. So one of the things that I see nowadays is there are these joint labs. So practically you have some sort of labs. So this is happening in Holland, for example. My former colleagues have different labs with Philips, with Qualcomm, with TomTom, with some other things. So in this time, Microsoft has also a lab with the University of Amsterdam and so on. So there it's a joint lab in the sense that the company is putting the data and the use cases, and then in this lab there are not only the researcher but also the students who could get access to the data and play around with it. And this is good for everyone. On one hand, for the researchers in academia, because they have real data, real problems, and they are really, instead of playing with toy applications, they solve real problems. And on the other hand, from the industry, they could have an unlimited amount of power to kind of look at different possibilities, different ways of kind of using their data and understanding things that is going on in there. So to me, this type of joint activities, it's the future. Another thing that it's now very, very popular is to go towards kind of industrial PhD. So also you could have people that are dedicated more towards industry. So their goal is not necessarily only to publish papers, which is good, and this is what we do for living, but also to kind of develop real life algorithms that can be directly used by the industry. Another thing that I think is quite important, and it will happen, is to use AI for sustainability. I know it's a big word and so on. So we've been, I submitted in November a proposal on this type of things. And actually there, it was supposed to be a network of excellence. And there it's about 30 partners, European partners and so on. So our goal was to kind of look at sustainability at different levels. So one would be kind of global sustainability. So this would be like kind of the use of materials, how to use AI for efficiency in energetical sector. So how you can use AI for, let's say, looking at climate changes and so on. Yeah. Then you could go toward the society level, in which you have some sort of, people, the society, and try to understand, for example, like fluid democracy, try to look at biases and all these type of things, and then you go at the individual level. So all this kind of sustainability using AI, I think it's really the next frontier as well.
It brings a lot of thoughts together, because we're working on using AI to create fake worlds, parallel worlds with the metaverse, and creating my digital DNA, etc. but also we're using AI for a sustainable, real world.
Right, exactly. But we can learn from this artificial world in some sense. So we are creating things, and we are learning from. Well, I mean, we can generate things, and then we can see, we can simulate what's going on, and then we can learn from these type of things. I think we are now at a level of technology in which we can really produce synthetic data that is very, very similar or very credible to the real data. So there, with that data, we can really simulate and we can really play around with it, and then this can be used to kind of make it better, to making our real world better.
A lot of people are worried about the metaverse and everything that can be happening there. And with our kids, my daughter is turning 7 next week, and my son is 4, and they will enter the metaverse one day. And on the other hand, it's kind of a...
It's a balance. It has to be somehow, it's of course there are pros and cons, right? On one hand, you would say, yes, I mean, why would my kid go and play with other kids instead of just, I mean, going and play physically instead of just, being at home and playing the metaverse with other kids.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there is always a risk of that. But on the other hand, if you think about it, it could also kind of reach out to their, far away cousins, or it could also allow them to attend, some kind of courses. Let's say, let's put it like this: in the metaverse, you could learn history by kind of being physically present there.
Yeah.
I mean, virtually present, so you can learn things directly from there. So to me, again, I don't expect into. I'm not afraid that the people would overuse these type of things and just kind of go on the wrong side. I think they will use it in the good way. So I don't think we should stop making technology just because this could be deleterious to our future. And so I hope the human beings are clever enough to kind of take the best of it.
Yeah, are we clever enough?
I think we do.
Yeah,
I think we do.
I really hope so.
Most of us.
Yeah.
Okay. There are always outliers, and that's all. But I believe that technology. We should not be afraid of technology.
No. So again, we should embrace it, and actually use these metaverses as test areas where we can try to improve the real life.
No, but think about now we come after the COVID, right? So we were kind of having 2 years of things. And in one thing that is incredible is that we discovered Zoom or whatever, all these kind of, meeting type of things.
Yeah.
And okay, fine. I mean, we were still missing, to meet people and so on. So it doesn't mean now that now we don't meet each other anymore and we just stay and we talk on Zoom at home. So to me, again, it's I think this doesn't mean that all these meeting platforms are going to disappear. On the contrary, they are now much better, and we can really use them much better than before.
Yeah.
And this could be good because we can, for example, eliminate some of the travels. You can eliminate some kind of physical boring meeting in which you can do it from home and so on. So I think it's good to kind of combine the two things, and it brings that flexibility. So to me, again, I think it's as long as we learn from all these things, I think it's good.
Perfect. Is there anything else you want to give to the listeners?
Well, maybe one thing that we should discuss is what humans want to do. And that's something that, of course, it's on my mind, and I'm trying to think about where are we going next, right? So at the moment, of course, we do have some kind of talking heads, right? But it's not enough. Okay, so you would want to give, let's say you can own an NFT. Let's put it a board monkey or whatever.
Yeah.
So there you want to be able to play around, to have a lot of customizable let's say features. Like you want to add voice to that. You want to be able to control it. To use text, for example, to make it say something. You may be able to control the language and so on. So to me, if you want now, for example, you want to talk to Messi. You said you want to be Messi, but you can also talk to Messi directly. So why not? So this is so to me, I think in humans we should start going toward these multimodal approaches. So kind of move from, of course, the visual information is important, and this is what makes us humans. But we do have also other senses we should put in there. Voices. We should put in. Kind of things, text to voice, voice to text to image, and so on. So all this type of interplay between the things is something that we need to address.
And in a sense, interviewing myself would be possible
Yes, I mean you can interview your own self.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not sure about the ideas, but you could also put behind the chat GPT and can start answering some of the things, you know. So it's of course, again, there are limitations in this way. So it's not that whatever you do now with DALL-E or chat GPT is going to work perfectly. But you could, yes, I think you could still kind of maybe talk to yourself. So maybe you already do, you know, in front of the mirror. So why not just talking to the real yourself, or kind of more intelligent stuff than just, you know, just a mirror in some way.
Yeah, yeah, and then even talk to my future self.
Yeah, and I mean the good thing about the digital the digital stuff is that it will not forget. It will remember things, right? You could say, "What did I said? I don't know when." And then I mean, this guy could also remind you of many things. Yeah. Why not?
And unlearning
some of the things.
My future self as well.
Could also be, of course.
Yeah. All right. Wrapping up our discussion, is there anything you want to do in your research that is still on your mind, on your list for a long time, that you want to focus on in the next couple of years?
Well, there are a few things that we do consider. So it depends a little bit of the aspects. So one of the things that it is still unexplored or very little explored are the brain waves. So let's say the brain-computer interaction has shown a lot of potential, but so far it's only limited to kind of toy examples. So we've done some research in the past in which we were using the brainwaves, and we even have a paper in which we were using some commercial sensors, so very simple stuff. But we were using this to understand, let's say, emotions of people. So for example, I'm looking at a particular movie or so I can understand, you know, the balance, positive, negative of this type of, you know, stimuli, movies and so on. Yeah. And you can also tell when, for example, there is some kind of high peak of emotion and so on. Could also be used for stress, for other kind of things. But to me, I think this could be also, and there were some preliminary works in which they will show that you can do some sort of, even a reconstruction from the brain of what a visual system would see. Some sort of, it's very, very crude reconstruction, but it's still possible to do it. You know, some kind of back projection of what is in the brain to kind of show it. But to me, in general, not only in order to make it your digital human to be as close as possible to you, I think having some sort of ways of using the brain waves to use them into and the same way as you would use a vision or audio and so on, I think that will be a next frontier. We are still far away from to have the available sensors, but I believe we are getting into that direction.
But you mean using brainwaves to control AI?
Yeah.
So we've seen the examples where you can concentrate and you have the train moving. Is this the same possibility of
something like that? Indeed,
me concentrating and having my
you can have some sort of feedback before even you have time to say it. You know, some kind of anticipating what you are going to do things, and this could be very useful. For example, in things in which you want to have real life type of technology, like I don't know, autonomous driving or some kind of things in which, you know, I'm staying there, I'm not driving, but for example, I may use my brain to kind of observe things that maybe the car will not be able to do it. So some kind of having a symbiosis between, you know, you and AI in some sense, without you being explicit in some way. So to me, I think that will be one of the next frontiers.
Okay, then to connect everything together, do you think in 2025 we are able to use brainwaves to create new videos? Instead of text to video, I just think, okay, I want my digital avatar to say this.
I believe in some simple ways, yes. In the sense that, I mean, the good thing about where we are now is that it's just, you don't have to go directly to video. It's just enough that I be able to kind of use the brainwave to utter some sort of, you know, textual stuff. And then I can use that one to generate video. So I don't need to go necessarily, you know, from the, so with this cross-modal type of generation, I can move from any, let's say, modality to another modality. And one thing is that, I mean, if you want to go to video is very complex. Instead, for us, text, it's a simple way to do abstraction.
Yeah.
So if you can just go from the brainware to kind of very simple abstraction, then from there you can generalize towards, images or videos. So I believe we could have some, maybe not realistic, maybe not completely working, but I believe we could have some example in which this would be the driving, let's say, condition for generation.
So we're now predicting that brainwaves, or brains to text and brains to video eventually, is the next big thing.
It could be, yes. I believe it will be, at least up to a degree, yes. I believe
so one day I hope to be able to revert back to this discussion.
I hope so.
And to have you as the predictor behind all the
I'll be happy
technology. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us in this first podcast.
My pleasure.
And hope to see you back soon again.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in and listening to our interesting conversation with Nicu Sebe. Please, if you have any discussions, questions, remarks, please leave them in the comment and we'll get back to you. If you want to hear any interesting topic next time, let us know as well. Thank you very much and see you next time in Humans OnAIr.